Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, and I'm here with a review of a Argentinian sexploitation horror film from 1969. I'm talking about The Curious Dr. Humpp. This is the new release of the film on Blu-ray from AGFA in collaboration with Something Weird. This is a movie I'd never heard of before, but I saw it with this new limited exclusive to Vinegar Syndrome slipcover, which I really liked the simplicity of, really liked the colors, and I figured I had to buy it because I had to see what this was all about, and it was on sale. So, yeah, when I got my order last week, this was one of the first ones I popped in because I was really looking forward to checking it out. I'd never really heard of this until finding out about it through AGFA. And the back of the case always perplexed me. To quote it, "The Curious Dr. Humpp isn't a movie, it's a rite of passage." And this movie combines artful gothic horror with unhinged sex, comic book pulp, and a talking brain in a jar. This is what might have happened if Mario Bava collaborated with Doris Wishman after an acid binge. These words genuinely inspired me to believe that this could be the next great, unheard of bad movie that I stumble upon and fall in love with. Similar to Things and Sledgehammer and Wicked World. The list goes on and on and on. Essentially, the plot of this film is about a mad scientist who has discovered the key to eternal life is basically draining specific hormones and fluids out of people when they are aroused and when they have sex. So he kidnaps people and forces them to fuck so he can get the chemicals he needs in order to keep himself alive and not turning into a raging monster. So yeah, what did I think of this movie? I think I like it. I genuinely do. This film is pretty competently shot. There are some shots that are genuinely pretty nice looking and kind of artful, especially for a somewhat hardcore. It's definitely more softcore porn than anything else, but there's still some relatively explicit stuff in this film. And for a movie of this nature, some of the shots are actually really, really nice looking. It has that classic 60s science fiction horror soundscape of strange whizzing, whirling, beeping, bubbling, etc., etc. And the dubbing is so bad and just distractingly out of sync that it just really does something that doesn't happen too often in cult filmmaking, where the film kind of becomes disconnected from the audience and it feels like it's from another world. It feels like this is not meant for human eyes, almost. The sets are pretty basic at times, but it's basic in that very surreal, minimalistic sense. Kind of like the 70s rape and revenge porno film, The Big Snatch. It feels isolated and, in a black void during some of the scenes. And the black and white cinematography really adds to this aesthetic. The monster and gore effects are actually pretty charming, but sadly minimal in this film. I was hoping for more. The added sex scenes added to the American cut of this film don't feel too distractingly just kind of shoved in, which makes the American cut, the Dr. Humpp cut, feel more organic. It's a sex-filled camp fest that is trying its hardest to be played straight, but it's too weird to take seriously. And those are my positives about the film. As for things that I guess you could label negatives, the movie's a bit slow to start. Things didn't get interesting for me until the 30-minute mark, 35 minutes maybe. The talking brain in the jar that is mentioned on the back of the case isn't in the movie as much as I wanted it to be. I was kind of hoping it would be like a big part of the movie, but it's really not. And the sex takes priority over the straight horror elements, which is another kind of letdown. The biggest shame of all is that while this movie is a pretty weird movie, especially by a normal person's standards, Dr. Humpp isn't nearly as wild as I was hoping it would be. It's weird. It's a weird one, but it's not Mario Bava and Doris Wishman on acid level of weird. It feels more like the Rocky Horror kind of sex and camp meets 70s like exploitation, sexploitation kind of misogyny and sleaze. Don't get me wrong, I love me some sleaze. The first of the infamous Alsa series is one of my favorite, like all-time favorite movies. It's a major sleaze fest and is not for normal person's consumption, but still, this film is very strange. It's kind of strange, and it falls in this weird category where, like, it's simultaneously not like super horrific and disturbing because it's like just so hard to take it seriously, and it's just an exploitation romp. And simultaneously, it's also this like pretty nasty and kind of like dirty feeling exploitation horror film. It's simultaneously this like Ed Wood cheese-a-thon and a cold shower inducing horror picture. I don't really know exactly why, but The Curious Dr. Humpp made me feel a little bit, not too much, but kind of, it made me feel like a bad person, sort of, for watching it and finding it entertaining. It's very similar to another exploitation film from the 60s called Night of the Bloody Apes, which is a Mexican exploitation film that was recut and dubbed for U.S. audiences, and that movie is simultaneously like a super dumb science fiction horror film that's got like some pretty good gore effects. Well, maybe not good, but entertaining gore effects. But that's also like really horribly like, damn, this movie hates women kind of thing. And that's kind of the conundrum with Dr. Humpp. Thankfully, it's nowhere near as bad as that film. But this one is like a less extreme, less violent, kind of mad scientist equivalent. It's kind of mad scientist cousin to the exploitation classic Bloodsucking Freaks. That said, I'm interested in seeing how the original horror Argentinian cut compares, because the original horror cut, which the title I'm not going to try and pronounce because I cannot understand it, but it is the original cut of the film without the American studios kind of distributors interference. So it doesn't have like all these added sex scenes. It's in its original language, and it's included as a special feature on this Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna save that for another time, and maybe I'll do a follow-up to this after I watch it and kind of see which one I like more. But as of now, I'd say the Curious Dr. Humpp is not mandatory viewing, but if you like weird horror films, if you like 60s horror aesthetics, if you like movies like Thundercrack, for prime example, or like Night of the Bloody Apes, I feel like that's the best comparison I could make. If you like older sexploitation pictures, this is definitely one to pick up, one to look into, one to check out. I know there's an upload of this film on YouTube currently. I don't know if it's not the restored version. I looked at it, but I didn't look super deep into the version that's on YouTube, but it is definitely not this HD master of it. And I don't even know, I don't think it's the fully uncut American version either. I think it might be the R-rated cut. But either way, this is well worth checking out. Definitely worth grabbing next time AGFA or Vinegar Syndrome has a sale. This is definitely one of my favorite releases AGFA has done, and it's really up there. This is what I wanted when I bought the Ed Wood film from them, Take It Out and Trade. I wanted something like this, something weird, something different, and that is what I got with the Curious Dr. Humpp. I'm very happy I bit the bullet and bought it with the slipcover because I really like the slipcover. But at the end of the day, the Curious Dr. Humpp, I'm going to go ahead and say the Curious Dr. Humpp gets I'm going to give it a 3. A 3 out of 5. I'm going to give it a very solid, almost down the middle rating, and reiterate that if sexploitation films from the 60s and 70s are your thing, this is very much worth checking out. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. This is the first actual review in quite a while. But that's it. This is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.